All right. Hello and welcome. I'm so excited to have you on for this small micro training about time freedom. And if you were joining us this week, this is along our topic
Hello
of
and
having
welcome. I'm so excited.
A full overview or week of the concept of time in general. So I'm excited to have you on here. Obviously, if you're joining us live, we're going to do a small training and then we're going to open this up for discussion. So if you are watching this through the live stream and want to jump over to the Zoom, you can find that Zoom link on our Week at a Glance card. So guys, the concept of time freedom, it's so powerful. And this all really starts with defining what time freedom is. And our definition of time freedom is being able to do what you want when you want. And we talked about your time earlier this week on a conversation. We talked about what is the value of your time. We talked about how most people typically are exchanging time for money. And in many cases, they are completely undervaluing themselves. They're trading their time in exchange for money at a rate that is far below what we believe the fair market value of your time would be. You're treating it like this infinite commodity, when in all actuality, it is a finite resource, and you don't know how much time you have. So you might as well maximize it. And ultimately, I think the goal of our time and our life is to get to that point where we have complete time freedom. A lot of us refer to that as retirement, right? Being able to do what we want, when we want, ideally where we want. But there's a path to get there. And for a lot of us, we've all been prescribed the typical path, right? Go to school, get a good job, work for a long time, save a little bit away. And hopefully, maybe if you're lucky, someday, you're going to have enough money stocked away that you'll have time freedom. You'll be able to retire and do what you want when you want. However, the statistics are out on all this. And as you know, we here at Elify, we're very stats-based people, data-based people. People are not quite implementing that path and not quite achieving the results of that pre-described path. So the question then becomes, is there a better way? If you know what your time is worth, and we talked about this on your time in that life by design, and you know where you want to get to, you can quantify the cost of that life by design, right? What does that perfect day look like for you? If you had complete control of your time, what would that day look like? Would you sleep in? Would you get up early? Would you do activities? Would you rest and relax? This is your life by design. So you would prescribe for yourself the ideal life. And then we talked about quantifying that, right? What is the cost associated with living that life? For some of us, that might be a extremely high cost. You want to live a 7-figure-a-year life, or for others, it's maybe just the normal life, right? I want to live in a nice neighborhood with my family, have all the creature comforts, but it doesn't need to be over the top. Again, you're going to pick this for yourself, and then you're going to define a path to get there. And I think ultimately, again, when we talk about time freedom, we have to get over this concept, and it's disassociating time and money. Think about that. If we could disassociate our time from our money or our income, our cash flow, we could make a massive difference in strides towards having complete time freedom. So again, ask yourself this question: what is my time worth? What is my time worth? And an easy way to quantify this is, if you add up all of the income you had this year, and you divided it by all of the time that was spent to achieve that income or generate that income, you would have a true dollar per hour value. Okay. But I want to throw out a few things. If you commute to your work, if you have to drive to a job, that takes time. That's factored in, because that's time you're probably not having to do something else. I would also argue, if it's a work day and you're working maybe like a 9 to 5, and again, I don't even know if that exists anymore in today's economy. You're really getting shot in the morning and shot in the evening from what you're able to do before work or after work. So include that maximum amount of time that you're contributing to generate that income, and that's going to give you a true value of your time. And I think when you look at that number, you're going to be surprised. You're going to be surprised that even though you thought what you were making was pretty good, when you distribute it over all the time it takes to get there, you might be getting the short end of the stick. So the next question becomes, what do you do about it? And can you set yourself on a path where you take any excess time and start to use that to create time freedom in your life? And I think you do that by, again, disassociating your time and your money and putting time up front to generate income that is passive. So what do we mean by passive income? Active income is when we do something that takes and requires direct effort to generate. Okay, passive income is the income that results after you've done that action or activity, yet it continues to produce for you. A good example I think we'd all be familiar with would be like an oil well, okay, an oil well. And let's say you're digging that oil well metaphorically for yourself. So you get yourself a shovel and you start digging, right? And that is active income. In fact, some cases for this time freedom path to work for a lot of us, you're doing active work and maybe even not getting paid, right? Digging that oil well. But once you strike oil and you begin to pump it, you can step away from your well, and every month, this passive income continues to flow. So when we talk about time freedom and we talk about that life by design and quantifying the cost associated with that life by design, I guess a quote always comes to mind. And I mentioned this on our last call. And it's the old quote that says, if your income is less than your outflow, then your excess will be your downfall. So this is the equation, right? You've got money coming in or revenue coming in or cash flow coming in, and you have the life you want to live that has all of these expenses, and that is your outflow. And as long as the income is equal to or greater than your outflow, you're fine. But if your outflow is greater than your income, your excess is going to be your downfall. So if you know what your outflow is going to be, you can diligently focus and work towards generating passive income that meets or exceeds that outflow. And once that's achieved, you've secured time freedom for yourself. Now, I know in the past, we've talked about sort of the three pillars of what we think freedom is for a life by design. We've talked about financial freedom. We're talking about time freedom. And thirdly, we talk about location freedom. And I would argue that a lot of people focus just on the financial freedom side of things. And there's a lot of strategies that we can be implementing that focus on generating financial freedom. But in a lot of cases, what we typically see is it's still associated with exchanging time for money and trying to generate some high revenue skill set where I can make more money for my time. And the argument is we have to get that out of our mindset, and we have to look at passive income paths that will create cash flows that are greater than our outflows and that are disassociated from our time. Once we achieve that, and maybe some of you on this call or are listening to this have achieved that, we can start to scale our lifestyle with that income or let that income flow exceed it and have a surplus to continue to invest, roll over, donate, etc. And start to have less, in my opinion, stress in our life because we're not feeling like we always have to be grinding to cover the bills or the expenses or those types of things. So again, the big challenge or question to you is take an opportunity to gauge not just where you are, but where you want to go and quantify what that end destination will cost. I mentioned it on the last call. We talked briefly about the book 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, right? His sort of, paraphrasing his comment would be like, you don't need to own a lifestyle. You're basically renting a lifestyle. So if you know what a lifestyle costs, you can go out and live that life. And as long as you're generating an income stream, and I would argue that business, entrepreneurship, those types of paths are going to create or have a better chance of creating that income stream faster in order to live that life by design. So guys, again, big thing here is we want to try and look at paths that disassociate income from time. Now, I want to throw out a word of caution here, because when we're looking at disassociating income from time, we have to understand the pros and the cons of each of those scenarios. When we can disassociate our income from time and we're generating massive amounts of income without the time investment, life is great, right? We've got a income stream coming in and it's covering our outflows. But most people don't understand, in order to get to that, again, it's just like my analogy of digging your oil well. The upfront time investment may feel disproportionate because it's not directly associated with an income stream. It's associated with building the mechanism, the systems, the process, or what have you, to generate that income stream. Now, Jeff, I know you're on the call. We're going to come off the live here in a little bit and open this up. And if you're watching this, you're going to want to join the live or future lives to join that conversation. But I know, Jeff, you spend a lot of time at no income building a model that then, once implemented, will create passive residual income. And I know we're going to talk about that here. So if you'll hold for just a minute on that, I want to get your take on that, because that's truly the process that I'm talking about and that I'm alluding to. And there are several paths, opportunities, organizations, and even ventures that you could personally start that would allow you to go down that path. But the biggest thing that I think people lose sight of, because we live in this world of instant gratification, right? I want the inflow immediately to equal the outflow, and I want it to be coming in passively. A lot of us miss out on the fact that we sometimes have to spend or invest our time into building the model, and we may not get paid for that building. But if we're diligent and we focus on that building process, it's like a farmer planting plants. He puts in all of that effort and that work, planting and sowing the seeds. He has to water it. He has to weed it. Then he has to do all of this stuff, right? Keep the animals out from getting to it. He's putting in massive amounts of time investment before he can reap the rewards of what he's sown, And we want to think about that same concept in our own lives of, what would I be willing to do, and how long would I be willing to do it for, if it helped me go from that 40-year timeline that most of us fall into the trap of trying to follow, to something that might be more realistic and achievable. And I'm not talking overnight. I think that's the trap a lot of us get into, right? This is the special path, the easy button, just pay me lots of money, and overnight, your dreams will come to reality. I mean, guys, this is being sold to us all the time on the internet by the gurus out there who get their money from selling that dream. The reality is, I truly believe that every one of us is capable of starting a venture, participating in a program, a system, an organization that will create the passive income, and hopefully add in the components of residual or leverage that can help us compress that timeline to something realistic. And that might be, a year's worth of effort, or 2 years or 5 years worth of effort. But if somebody came to you and said, look, you can either spend 40 years trying to get there, or in parallel, you can really be hardworking, don't trade your time for money, but invest your time in a 2, 3 to 5 year period, you can achieve what takes others 40 years to achieve. And once you're there, oh my gosh, what does that open up to you? If you had complete control of your time, when you get to that point, what would you do with it? Because now you're no longer having to invest that time or spend that time, because it's disassociated from the income. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop this live, and we're going to go through and open this up for just general conversation. And again, I'd encourage you, if you're seeing this, jump over into the Zoom meeting. You can find that link on our Week at a Glance card. And we're going to directly focus on everybody in here who really is working towards that path and trying to work together to help you structure what that path looks like, what that implementation looks like.